I've been with my boyfriend Cade for 2 years. Or I guess I should say I was with him because I'm pretty sure we're done, but honestly, at this point, the relationship is the least of my concerns. Let me start from the beginning because you need the full picture to understand why what I found matters so much. I met Cade at a friend's birthday party about 2.5 years ago. My coworker Nia was turning 30, and her boyfriend at the time knew people who knew people. And somehow we ended up at this rooftop bar downtown that I could never afford on my own. Cade was there with some guys from his college, and we started talking at the bar while waiting for drinks. He bought me a drink without making it weird. He asked for my number at the end of the night and texted me the next morning saying he had a great time talking to me. Our first few dates were normal. Coffee, dinner at a mid-range restaurant, a walk in the park. He didn't flash his money around, and I didn't even realize he came from wealth until about a month in when he casually mentioned his family's vacation home. I remember asking him what his dad did, and he got kind of vague about it. Said something about distribution and logistics and changed the subject. I found out later his father owns one of the biggest distribution companies in the region. We're talking serious money. The kind where everyone in the family drives luxury cars and wears designer clothes and takes international vacations multiple times a year. When I realized how wealthy his family was, I actually tried to pull back a little. I grew up with my mom and younger brother in a 2-bedroom apartment. My mom worked 2 jobs most of my childhood. We were fine, but we weren't rich. And I didn't want Cade or anyone else thinking I was dating him for money. But Cade wouldn't let me pull back. He kept pursuing me, kept telling me how different I was from the other girls he'd dated. How refreshing it was to be with someone who didn't expect him to pay for everything. How all his exes had been spoiled and entitled and only cared about his family's money, but I was real and genuine, and he loved that about me. I think that's what hooked me, honestly. The way he made me feel special for being normal. Like my regular middle-class background was somehow exotic and interesting compared to the trust fund girls he usually dated. Looking back, I can see how messed up that was. He put me on a pedestal for not being a gold digger, which meant I spent the entire relationship trying to prove I wasn't one. I insisted on splitting bills. I never asked him to buy me anything. When he gave me gifts, I always felt weird about it. I was so paranoid about seeming like I wanted his money that I bent over backwards to show I didn't need it. And I think Cade liked that. Liked having a girlfriend who was grateful instead of entitled, who didn't demand things, who felt lucky just to be with him. The problem started with Vivian. Vivian is Cade's best friend from childhood. They grew up on the same street, went to the same private school. She's gorgeous in that effortless rich girl way where her hair always looks perfect and she wears simple outfits. She has a boyfriend named Freddie, who never seemed bothered by anything, which I now realize should have been a red flag. I met Vivian about 3 months into dating Cade. He brought me to some party at her parents' house, and the second I walked in, I felt like an outsider. Everyone there knew each other from childhood. They had inside jokes and shared memories, and this whole history I wasn't part of. Vivian was nice to me, but in that polite, distant way where you can tell someone is sizing you up. I tried to like her. I really did. I told myself I wasn't going to be that jealous girlfriend who couldn't handle her man having female friends. My mom always said if a man wants to cheat, he'll cheat, and no amount of controlling will stop him. So the best thing you can do is trust until you have a reason not to. So I trusted. But over time, things started feeling off. Cade talked about Vivian constantly. Vivian said this. Vivian did that. Vivian and I are going to lunch. Vivian needs help with something. It was like she was always there, even when she wasn't physically present. Then Cade bought Vivian a Cartier bracelet for her birthday. A Cartier bracelet. For his friend. I looked it up later, and that thing cost more than some people's cars. And when I asked him about it, he acted like I was being ridiculous. Like it was totally normal to buy your female best friend luxury jewelry while your actual girlfriend gets dinner and flowers. He said Vivian had always wanted that bracelet, and he wanted to do something special for her because she was going through a hard time at work. He said I was being insecure and jealous, and he didn't like that side of me. I backed off because I didn't want to be that girlfriend. Then came Vivian's promotion party in May. Cade insisted we go, even though it was the same night as Nia's birthday dinner that I'd been planning for weeks. He said we could stop by Nia's thing after, but Vivian's party was more important because she'd worked so hard and she'd be devastated if he wasn't there. We never made it to Nia's dinner. Cade got so drunk at Vivian's party that I had to practically carry him to the car at 1 a.m. The whole ride home, he kept going on about how amazing Vivian was, how she was going to take over the world, how lucky Freddie was, how he'd known since they were kids that she was special. I sat there driving his BMW that cost more than I'll make in 2 years, listening to my boyfriend talk about another woman like she was the love of his life. And I told myself it was fine. He's drunk. They're just friends. It doesn't mean anything. I think that's when things started shifting in how he treated me too. Like once he knew I would put up with the Vivian stuff, he started testing how much else I would tolerate. Little comments about my clothes not being right for certain events. Suggestions that maybe I should let him buy me something nicer to wear. Questions about whether I really needed to work so much or if I just didn't want to spend time with him. His family made it worse. The few times I met his parents, his mother looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. She asked me where I went to school, and when I said State College, she got this little smile like that confirmed everything she suspected. His father barely acknowledged me. His brother Elliot was polite but distant. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, they would accept me. If I was nicer, more polished, less obviously middle class. Maybe eventually they would see I wasn't the gold digger they assumed I was. Then June happened and everything got worse. Cade's brother Elliot was getting married in July, and Cade asked me to be his +1 back in February. I was so excited. This was going to be my first time meeting most of his extended family. I saved up for weeks and bought this beautiful navy blue floor-length dress with beaded detail on the shoulders. I wanted to make a good impression. 2 weeks before the wedding, Cade came to my apartment and sat on my couch and told me he didn't think I should come, just like that. I asked what he meant, and he got all weird and wouldn't look at me, and finally said his family was very particular about appearances, and he wasn't sure I would fit in. Maybe it would be better if I sat this one out, and he could bring me to the next event once his relatives had a chance to get to know me better. I asked him what exactly he meant by I wouldn't fit in. He started making excuses about his aunt being judgmental and his grandmother being traditional, and he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable. Then I asked who he was planning to bring instead. Silence. He said Vivian offered to come as a friend since Freddie had some work thing. It would just be easier because his family already knew her and loved her, and it wouldn't be weird. Wouldn't be weird. I told him absolutely not. I was his girlfriend. If anyone should be his +1 to his own brother's wedding, it should be me. If his family had a problem with me, that was something we needed to address together, not something I should hide from. He said I was being dramatic, making a big deal out of nothing, that if I really loved him, I would understand he was just trying to protect me, that Vivian was just a friend and I needed to stop being so insecure. We had the worst fight we'd ever had. I cried. He got cold and distant the way he always did when I showed any emotion he didn't like. Then he left and I didn't hear from him for 3 days. When he finally texted, he said he'd thought about it and he still thought Vivian was the better choice. But he loved me and hoped I could understand. I should have ended it right there. I know, everyone reading this is screaming at me, but I was in love and I kept thinking about all our plans and I told myself every couple has rough patches and maybe I was being too insecure. So I stayed home while my boyfriend took another woman to his brother's wedding. I found out what happened through Instagram. One of his cousins posted a story and there was Cade and Vivian slow dancing together, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her waist. They looked like a couple. I texted Cade asking what the hell I was looking at. 4 hours later, he said I was overreacting. I called him, and I could hear the reception going on, and I asked how he could do this while I sat at home like some dirty secret. He told me I was embarrassing myself, that his family could hear me, that I was proving exactly why he couldn't bring me because I was too emotional. Then he hung up on me. The next day, he showed up with flowers and apologies and tears and promises to do better. I believed him again. Then came the rent situation in September. My building got sold and rent went up $400. I mentioned it to Cade. He offered to help. He offered. 3 months while I figured things out. I didn't know he was telling his entire family I was using him for money, showing them our texts, mocking me at Sunday dinners, painting me as a desperate gold digger. I found out because of Dubai. In October, Cade said he was going on a boys' trip to Dubai. A week later, I saw Instagram photos of him and Vivian on a hotel balcony. Caption, finally traveling with someone who appreciates me. I called 30 times. When he answered, he said his mother always said I was beneath them, and he was starting to think she was right. I told him we were done. He laughed and hung up. 3 days ago, Elliot's wife accidentally added me to their family group chat. I watched them mock me in real time. Screenshots of our private texts, his mother calling me trouble, cousins laughing, Cade typing watch her come begging when she can't afford her little apartment. In October, Cade said he was going on a boys' trip to Dubai. A week later, I saw Instagram photos of him and Vivian on a hotel balcony. Caption, finally traveling with someone who appreciates me. I called 30 times. When he answered, he said his mother always said I was beneath them, and he was starting to think she was right. I told him we were done. He laughed and hung up. 3 days ago, Elliot's wife accidentally added me to their family group chat. I watched them mock me in real time. Screenshots of our private texts. His mother calling me trouble, cousins laughing, Cade typing watch her come begging when she can't afford her little apartment. That was 3 days ago. Yesterday, I went to his apartment to get my stuff. I still had a key. He wasn't home, but I knew he wouldn't be because he wasn't flying back from Dubai until Thursday. I just wanted my clothes. I was shoving everything into a bag when I noticed his laptop was open on his desk. And I wasn't planning to look. I really wasn't. I was just going to leave. But then I saw a folder on his desktop labeled Dad's Company, and something made me stop. I don't want to get into too many details about what I found because honestly I'm still trying to figure out what to do. But let me just say that Cade has been doing things his father definitely does not know about. Things that involve money that doesn't belong to him. Things that would absolutely destroy his relationship with his family if they ever found out. And there were messages, so many messages, between Cade and Vivian, about his father, calling him an old idiot, senile, easy to manipulate, laughing about how stupid everyone was for not noticing what was going on. I took pictures of everything. Everything. Then I left his apartment. Drove home. Haven't slept since. Cade is flying back from Dubai tomorrow. He's been texting me like nothing's wrong. Sending pictures of him and Vivian at beach clubs and restaurants like I'm supposed to care about his vacation updates. He has no idea I was in his apartment. No idea what I saw on his laptop. No idea that the woman his family called a gold digger is sitting here with enough information to blow up his entire life. I haven't responded to any of his texts. I don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me wants to send everything to his father right now. Let them all see who the real parasite is. Let them watch their golden boy get exposed for what he actually is. But another part of me is scared. These people have money, connections. Cade's family could probably make my life very difficult if they wanted to. And I don't know what the legal implications are of what I found or what could happen if I share it. My friend Nia keeps telling me to think this through, to be smart, to not do anything impulsive. But every time I close my eyes, I see that group chat. See his mother saying she knew I was trouble. See his cousins laughing. See Cade typing, "Watch her come begging." They think I'm just some desperate broke girl they can humiliate and discard. They have no idea what I'm holding. Cade gets back tomorrow afternoon. He texted saying he'll come straight to my apartment from the airport because we need to talk. Like he's the one who has things to say to me. We'll update after tomorrow. After he comes back. After whatever happens next. This is either going to be the best decision I've ever made or the worst. Guess we'll find out. Update. First, I need to address some of the comments from my last post because a lot of you were telling me to go to the police or get a lawyer immediately, and I hear you, but it's not that simple. I don't even fully understand what I found on his laptop. I know it looks bad, I know it involves money, but I'm not a financial expert and I don't know if what he's doing is actually illegal or just shady or what. All I know is that his father definitely doesn't know about it, and based on those messages between Cade and Vivian, they've been laughing about how easy it is to hide things from him. Also, a bunch of you asked if I was sure about what I saw. Yes, I'm sure. I took pictures of everything, multiple folders, multiple message threads, spreadsheets that didn't make sense to me but clearly showed money moving around in ways that seemed wrong, and those messages calling his father an old idiot and senile and easy to manipulate. I have all of it saved in 3 different places now. Okay, so here's what happened. Around 5 p.m. he texted that he'd landed and was heading to my apartment. Asked if I was home. I just said yes. I'd been pacing around my apartment all day trying to figure out what I was going to say. Nia came over in the morning to help me think through it, and she kept saying I needed to stay calm and not show my hand too early. That I should feel him out first and see what he says about Dubai and Vivian before I bring up what I found. But honestly, by the time he actually showed up, I was so angry I could barely see straight. He knocked on my door around 6 p.m. I opened it, and there he was with his stupid, expensive luggage and his Dubai tan, and this big smile on his face like he was expecting me to run into his arms. I just stared at him. He came in and tried to hug me, and I stepped back, and he got this confused look on his face like he genuinely didn't understand why I wasn't happy to see him. And that made me even angrier because how could he not understand? How could he stand there acting like everything was fine after what he did? He started talking about how tired he was from the flight and how Dubai was amazing and I should come with him next time, and the whole time I'm just standing there with my arms crossed waiting for him to acknowledge anything. Finally, I asked him how Vivian was. He stopped mid-sentence. Just froze for a second. Then he got this annoyed look and said she was fine, and asked why I was starting with that already. He literally just walked in the door and I was already bringing up Vivian. I told him I saw the pictures. He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes at me. Said, yeah, he posted some pictures, so what? It was a vacation. People take pictures on vacation. I was being dramatic as usual. I asked him why he lied about it being a boys' trip. He said he didn't lie. His friends were there too. Vivian just happened to come along last minute because she needed to get away after her breakup with Freddie. It wasn't a big deal. He didn't tell me because he knew I would freak out exactly like I was freaking out right now. I asked him about the caption, finally traveling with someone who appreciates me. What exactly did that mean? He got all defensive and said I was reading too much into it. It was just a caption. It didn't mean anything. He was talking about traveling with friends in general, not specifically about Vivian. I was twisting everything to make him look bad. And that's when I brought up the group chat. I told him I saw everything. Every single message. His screenshots of our conversations. His mother calling me trouble. His cousins laughing at me. Him saying, watch her come begging. His face changed. He asked how I saw the group chat. I told him Elliot's wife added me by accident. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through it, and I could see him reading the messages, and his jaw was getting tighter and tighter. Then he looked up at me and said that was a private family conversation, that I shouldn't have been in there, that whatever I saw was taken out of context. Out of context. I asked him what context makes it okay to screenshot our private texts and share them with his entire family to mock me. What context makes it okay for his mother to call me trouble, and for his cousins to call me a gold digger? What context makes it okay for him to say I would come begging when I couldn't afford my apartment? He started backpedaling, saying his family could be harsh but they didn't mean it. That he was just venting because I'd been so difficult about the Vivian stuff. That he never actually thought I was a gold digger, he was just frustrated and said things he didn't mean. I asked him if his mother really said I was beneath them. He went quiet. I asked him again, because he said that to me on the phone from Dubai. That his mother always said I was beneath them. I wanted to know if that was true or if he made it up. He tried to dodge it. Said his mom had opinions about everyone and it wasn't personal. That she was protective of him and didn't think anyone was good enough. I told him to answer the question. He finally admitted that yes, his mom had said things about me, about where I came from, about my background, about how I wasn't from their world and I would never fit in. But he always defended me. He always told her she was wrong. I laughed. Because defended me how? By excluding me from his brother's wedding? By taking another woman instead? By posting romantic pictures with her in Dubai? By sharing our private conversations so his whole family could mock me? He got angry then, said I was being impossible, that he came here to make things right, and I was attacking him, that I always did this. Always made everything about my insecurities instead of listening to what he was trying to say. I told him I was done listening to his excuses. And then I said something I probably shouldn't have said, but I was so angry I couldn't stop myself. I told him I went to his apartment to get my stuff, that I had a key, that I saw his laptop. The way he looked at me. I've never seen his face do that before. It went completely white, like all the blood just drained out of him. He asked what I meant. I saw his laptop. I said his screen was on. There was a folder on his desktop. Dad's company. I saw what was inside. He didn't say anything for what felt like a full minute. Just stood there staring at me like I'd pulled a gun on him. Then he asked what exactly I saw. I told him I saw enough. He started pacing around my living room, running his hands through his hair and muttering under his breath. Then he stopped and turned to me, and his voice was different now. Lower. Almost desperate. He asked if I took anything, copied anything, sent anything to anyone. I didn't answer. He asked again. More urgent this time. Telling me this was serious. That I needed to tell him right now if I took pictures or screenshots or anything. I still didn't answer. He came toward me and grabbed my shoulders, and I could feel his hands shaking, and he was looking at me with this intense, desperate expression, asking me, please, please, please tell him what I did. I pushed him off me and told him not to touch me. He backed up, but he kept talking, kept saying I didn't understand what I saw, that it wasn't what it looked like, that there was an explanation for everything on that laptop, but it was complicated and he needed to know what I took before he could explain. I asked him about the messages. He froze again. I told him I saw his messages with Vivian, about his father, calling him an old idiot, senile, easy to manipulate. He closed his eyes. I asked him what they were doing, what he and Vivian were hiding, what was in that folder that made him so scared. He opened his eyes and he looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he actually looked scared. Not angry, not defensive, genuinely scared. He said I needed to delete everything, right now, whatever I took. He would explain everything after, but I needed to delete it first. Because if anyone else saw those files, it would ruin everything. I asked him ruin what? He said his relationship with his father, his future, everything he'd been working toward. He said there were things I didn't understand about his family's business and how it worked, and yes, he'd made some choices that could look bad out of context, but it wasn't what I thought, and if I just gave him a chance to explain, without threatening him with this, he could make me understand. I told him to explain now. He said he couldn't, not until he knew the files were gone, not until he could be sure this wasn't going to blow up in his face. I told him that wasn't happening. And you guys, the shift that happened in him, like watching someone take off a mask. He got calm, too calm, and he asked me what I wanted. Money? How much would it take to make this go away? He could write me a check right now. Whatever I needed. A new apartment. 6 months rent. A year. Whatever would make me feel compensated for everything and walk away. I literally could not believe what I was hearing. I told him I didn't want his money. I wasn't his family's gold digger, no matter how many times they called me that. I didn't want anything from him except answers. He said I was being naive, that everyone wants something, that this whole relationship I'd been playing the innocent, hardworking girl who paid her own way, but now I had leverage and I was using it just like anyone else would. I told him he was disgusting. He said I was the one who went through his laptop. I was the one threatening him. I was the one holding his family's business over his head. Who was really the bad guy here? I told him to get out of my apartment. He didn't move at first. Just stood there looking at me with this expression I can't even describe. Like he was calculating something, weighing his options. Then he said we weren't done talking about this. That I had something that belonged to his family, and one way or another he was going to get it back. That I should think very carefully about my next move because I had no idea who I was dealing with. I walked to my front door and opened it and told him to get out. He grabbed his luggage and walked past me and stopped in the doorway and turned around and said he'd known from the beginning that I wasn't like the other girls he dated. He just didn't realize until now that it was because I was smarter and more dangerous. Then he left. I locked my door and put the chain on and sat down on my kitchen floor, and I was shaking so hard I couldn't even hold my phone. Nia came over about an hour later when I finally managed to text her, and I told her everything, and she was freaking out saying this was insane and asking what I was going to do. I didn't know. I still don't know. But here's where it gets even crazier. Around midnight last night my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. Then texts started coming in from a number I didn't recognize. This is Cade's father. I need to speak with you immediately. My son told me there's been a misunderstanding. I'd like to resolve this before it becomes something we all regret. Please answer your phone. This is very important. I don't know what you think you found, but I assure you there is an explanation. Let me explain in person. The calls kept coming. I muted my phone, but I could see the notifications. Every few minutes another call, another text, getting more and more urgent. I need to know what you have. I need to know who you've shared it with. This can all go away. You can walk away from this with more than enough to start fresh somewhere nice. No one has to get hurt. Please be reasonable. Think about what you're doing. And then this morning, Cade started texting too. Completely different tone than last night. No more threats, no more accusations. Just please call me. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But you don't understand what's happening here, and I'm scared and I need to talk to you. And then, my dad is furious. Whatever you told him, he's losing his mind. Please just tell me what you said so I can fix this. That's when I realized Cade's father doesn't actually know what's in those files. Not yet. He just knows something is wrong. Cade must have told him that I found something on the laptop, but not what I found. Because if his father actually saw those messages about being an old idiot and senile, he wouldn't be trying to buy my silence. He'd be confronting his son. So right now, Cade is trying to get to me before I can show his father what's really going on. His father thinks this is about me trying to extort them. He doesn't know his own son has been mocking him behind his back, calling him senile, laughing about how easy he is to manipulate, doing God knows what with the family company money. I haven't responded to any of them. Not Cade, not his father. I haven't answered a single call or text. But they're getting more desperate by the hour. Cade's mother called me this morning. Twice. Left a voicemail saying we need to have a woman-to-woman conversation about how family matters should stay private, and how I'm clearly upset, but there are ways to handle these things discreetly. Like I'm the one who did something wrong. Like I'm the problem here. Nia thinks I should meet with his father, take whatever money he's offering, and walk away. She says this family is dangerous, and I'm in over my head, and the smartest thing I can do is get out with something to show for it. They called me a gold digger for asking my boyfriend to help with rent. But their precious son has been doing something so bad with his father's money that the mere idea of someone finding out has the whole family in panic mode. Who's the real gold digger here? We'll update when I figure out what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm just watching them panic and trying to decide if I want to burn it all down or walk away with whatever I can get. Either way, they're never going to call me a gold digger again. Final update. Okay, this is my last update because honestly, I need to be done with this whole situation and move on with my life. But you guys have been so supportive and you deserve to know how it ended. I met with Cade's father. After my last post, the calls and texts kept coming nonstop. Cade was getting more and more desperate. His father was offering more and more money. At one point, his mother texted me saying they were prepared to offer me $50,000 to hand over whatever I had and sign an NDA and walk away. $50,000. For the girl they called a gold digger because I asked for help with rent. I thought about it. I'm not going to lie. $50,000 would change my life. I could move somewhere nicer, pay off some debt, actually breathe for once. But every time I considered taking it, I thought about that group chat. About Cade typing "watch her come begging." About his whole family laughing at screenshots of me thanking my boyfriend for helping me. About being called trash and beneath them and trouble. They didn't want to pay me because they respected me or felt bad about how they treated me. They wanted to pay me to shut up so their precious son wouldn't face consequences. So I texted Cade's father and told him I would meet him, but not to make a deal. I wanted him to see what his son had really been doing. We met at a restaurant near my apartment. Neutral ground. He showed up looking exactly like what he was. Rich older man in an expensive suit trying to clean up his kid's mess. He had this fake friendly smile like we were old friends catching up. He started talking immediately, telling me he understood I was upset but this was all a misunderstanding. That Cade was young and made mistakes but he was a good kid at heart. That the family had been too harsh on me and he apologized for that. That if I would just tell him what I found and agree to forget about it, we could all move forward. I let him talk for a while. Let him make his offers. Let him tell me about how generous he was willing to be. Then I pulled out my phone. I told him I wasn't here for money. I was here because he deserved to know who his son really was. And I showed him the messages. The ones between Cade and Vivian, where they called him an old idiot. Where they laughed about how senile he was getting. Where Cade bragged about how easy it was to manipulate him. Where they joked about what they were going to do once he was out of the picture. I watched his face as he read them. I've never seen someone age 10 years in 2 minutes before. He didn't say anything at first, just kept scrolling, reading. His hands started shaking. His jaw got tight. He put my phone down on the table and stared at it like it was a bomb. Then he asked me if there was more. I told him about the folder, Dad's company, about the spreadsheets that didn't make sense, about money moving around in ways that seemed wrong. I told him I didn't understand all of it, but I knew it was something Cade didn't want anyone to see. He asked me to send him everything. I did, right there at the table. Every picture I'd taken, every screenshot, all of it. He sat there reading through it on his own phone and his face kept getting darker and darker. At one point he made this sound, this horrible sound like someone punched him in the stomach. When he finally looked up at me, his eyes were wet. He said he built that company from nothing, 40 years of his life. He brought Cade in because he wanted to pass it down to his son. He trusted him with everything because that's what fathers do. And his son called him senile, laughed about manipulating him, stole from him. He thanked me. Actually thanked me. Said he knew I probably hated his family and had every reason to, but I could have just taken the money and walked away, and instead I showed him the truth. I told him I wasn't the gold digger they all thought I was. He looked at me for a long moment and then he said he knew that now. That his wife had been wrong about me. That Cade had been wrong. That they'd all been so focused on protecting their family name that they forgot to look at who was actually threatening it. We talked for another hour. He asked me questions about my relationship with Cade, about Vivian, about when I first started noticing things were wrong. I told him everything. The wedding, Dubai, the group chat, all of it. By the end, he looked like a completely different person than the man who walked in trying to buy my silence. He apologized. Genuinely apologized. For his wife. for his family, for what they put me through. Then he stood up and said he had somewhere to be. I found out what happened next through Instagram of all places. Vivian unfollowed Cade and deleted all their pictures together. A day after that, Elliot's wife removed me from the family group chat, but not before I saw a bunch of messages about a family emergency meeting and everyone needing to be at the house immediately. Then Cade texted me, 23 messages in a row, asking what I told his father, asking why his dad wasn't returning his calls, asking why he'd been locked out of all the company accounts, asking what I'd done to his life. I didn't respond to any of them. The last message he sent me was 3 days ago. He said I ruined everything, that I destroyed his family, that he was going to lose everything because of me, that he hoped I was happy now. And you know what? I am happy. Cade's father has apparently cut him off completely. No more access to company accounts, no more family money, no more vacation homes or luxury apartments or expensive trips to Dubai. From what I can piece together from social media, he's been staying with friends because he can't afford his own place anymore. The guy who said watch her come begging can't even pay his own rent now. Funny how that works. I blocked him and his entire family yesterday. Every single one of them. I don't need updates, I don't need closure, I don't need anything from any of them ever again. Nia keeps telling me I should have taken the $50,000, that I could have had the money and shown his father everything. Maybe she's right. But honestly, I don't care. Thanks to everyone who followed this disaster and gave me advice and supported me through it. This is my last update. I'm done with the drama. I'm done with rich boys who think they can treat people like garbage. I'm done with families who look down on anyone who wasn't born with money.